Hello, my name is Miss Lindisha Curry, and
My name is Miss Leanna Burrows, and we work with Friends of the Environment in Apico.
welcome to our Wash and Dry program. Wash and Dry stands for Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, and Disaster Recovery.
What will we learn in this program? This program will address the availability and distribution of water on Earth, the importance of access to clean fresh water, identifying sources of fresh water in the Bahamas, land uses and water pollution, measuring water quality and contamination, and utilizing the water around us. We will explore water availability, specifically in the Bahamas, and understand the challenges that we face here.
Today's lesson is Where in the World is Water? We will be talking about the availability and the distribution of water on Earth. Do you think that Earth has more land than water?
The Earth's surface is comprised of water and land. 71% of that surface is water, with the remaining 29% being land. However, only 2.5% of that water is suitable for human consumption. Unfortunately, due to how water is distributed on Earth, less than 1% of that fresh water is accessible to us.
So, depicted in this diagram, we can see that approximately 97% of all the water on Earth's surface can be found in the oceans, with the remaining 3% being fresh water. However, 79% of that fresh water is frozen in ice caps and glaciers in the North and South Poles, and only 20% being groundwater and 1% being accessible fresh surface water. The surface water is found in lakes, rivers, soil moisture within living things, and water vapor. Do we have any freshwater lakes or rivers here in the Bahamas? No. We will talk further about Bahamian sources of fresh water in the upcoming lessons. So we can summarize that fresh water is a limited resource, especially in comparison to salt water.
Is all the water on Earth fresh? No. As we discussed earlier, there is more salt water than fresh water. The majority of the water found on Earth is salt water from the oceans. So, what's the difference between salt water and fresh water? Fresh water is water that is not salty and has little or no taste, color, or odor. Salt water is water that contains dissolved salts and other minerals. Fresh water can be found in rivers, many lakes, underground in aquifers, and in the form of ice as glaciers. To be considered fresh water, the body of water must contain less than 1% of salt. The salt lends itself to other differences between freshwater and saltwater. For example, because of the salt dissolved in saltwater, saltwater is also more dense than freshwater. This means the volume of the water is heavier than that of freshwater. What is interesting about this difference is that it means salt water is also more buoyant than fresh water. This means in bodies of water with a high concentration of salt, you are able to float easier. The salt in salt water also alters the freezing point. Salt water has a lower freezing point than fresh water because of the salt in it.
Now we are going to talk about states of matter. H2O, or water, is the only substance that can be found in nature in all of its various states. A state of matter is the form in which something can be found. The three states of matter are solid, liquid, and gas. H2O as a solid is called ice, as a liquid it is called water, and as a gas it's called water vapor.
Let's learn about the water cycle. Earth's water is always in movement, and the natural water cycle, also known as the hydraulic cycle, describes the continuous movement of water on, above, and below the surface of the Earth. Water is always changing states between liquid, vapor, and ice, with these processes happening in the blink of an eye and over millions of years. The water cycle has no starting point, but will begin in the oceans, since that is where most of Earth's water exists. The sun, which drives the water cycle, heats water in the oceans. Some of it evaporates as vapor into the air. Ice and snow can sublimate directly into water vapor. Rising air currents take the vapor up into the atmosphere, along with water from evapotranspiration, which is water transpired from plants and evaporated from the soil. The vapor rises into the air, where cooler temperatures cause it to condense into clouds. Air currents move clouds around the globe. Cloud particles collide, grow, and fall out of the sky as precipitation. Some precipitation falls as snow and can accumulate as ice caps and glaciers, which can store frozen water for thousands of years. Snowpacks in warmer climates often thaw and melt when spring arrives, and the melted water flows over land as snow melt. Most precipitation falls back into the oceans or onto land, where, due to gravity, the precipitation flows over the ground as surface runoff. A portion of runoff enters rivers and valleys in the landscape, with stream flow moving water towards the oceans. Runoff and groundwater seepage accumulate and are stored as fresh water in lakes. Not all runoff flows into rivers, though. Much of it soaks into the ground as infiltration. Some water infiltrates deep into the ground and replenishes aquifers, which are saturated subsurface rock, which store huge amounts of fresh water for long periods of time. Some infiltration stays close to the land surface and can seep back into surface water bodies and the ocean as groundwater discharge. And some groundwater finds openings in the land surface and emerges as freshwater springs. Over time, though, all of this water keeps moving, some to re-enter the ocean, where the water cycle, quote unquote, ends. Nope. The cycle never ends, it just continues.
We would like to thank all of the organizations that came together to make this Wash and Dry program possible, such as Friends of the Environment, the Center for Disaster Philanthropy, Water Mission, Water and Sewage Corporation, the Goodness Tour, and Samaritan's Purse.